It's late at night, and the world has gone quiet. The kind of quiet that feels too still, too heavy, like something is watching from the dark. The air is thick with the weight of silence, but there's something just beneath the surface. A low, rhythmic sound that doesn't belong. This isn't just noise. It's a presence. A constant, unrelenting reminder that something is alive, and it's not leaving. There's a reason people talk about this place. It's not just the crickets. It's the way they seem to know when you're listening. The crickets don't just sound annoying. They feel like they're waiting for something. Like they're part of the mystery, not just the noise. And so, you sit there, caught between the silence and the sound, wondering if the crickets are just noise, or if there's something else entirely.
Long before we knew their name, crickets were just a sound in the dark. Their chirping was the first noise that signaled the coming of night, and it carried through ancient forests and open fields. In ancient cultures, these sounds were not just noise, they were messages. The Greeks called them krike, meaning to chirp, and the Romans saw them as signs of life in the wild. Crickets have been around for millions of years, evolving in silence. Their survival was not about being heard, but about being heard in the right place at the right time. They were not the first to make sound, but they became the most persistent. Their rhythm was a natural alarm clock, marking the passage of time in a way we still feel today. Even in the most quiet places, their sound is an intrusion. It is a reminder of our own connection to nature, and the way we have always been surrounded by life, even when we are alone. Crickets have no idea they are annoying. They are just doing what they were born to do: make sound, survive, and echo through time. One evening, the usual hum was different. It was louder, more frantic, as if the air itself had thickened with unease. The rhythm had changed, no longer a steady, comforting buzz, but a dissonant, chaotic drone. I sat on the porch, listening, trying to make sense of it. The sound wasn't just louder, it was wrong. It felt like the world was holding its breath, waiting for something to break. I looked around, searching for the source, but there was nothing. Just the empty yard, the fading light, and the memory of sound that had just vanished. In that moment, something shifted. Not in the air, not in the ground, but in me. I felt it, the first crack in the certainty that the world would always be the same. I didn't know what had happened, but I knew in that stillness that something had changed, and I would never hear those crickets again. There was a night, not too long ago, when the silence between the chirps grew too heavy. It was as if the crickets had turned their song into a warning, a prelude to something lost. A child, no older than 10, had vanished that night. The last thing heard was the sound of crickets, their rhythm broken by a sudden, unexplained silence. The parents searched, called out, waited for a response. But the only thing that remained was the eerie echo of the crickets, their song now a haunting reminder of what was taken. The case went cold, the investigation stalled. The community was left with unanswered questions, and the crickets continued their song, as if mocking the void left behind. To this day, the crickets still sing, but their sound carries a weight, a memory of something missing, a reminder that some silences are not meant to be filled. I remember the night my wife left. It was the sound of crickets that kept me awake, relentless, like a reminder of what I had lost. They didn't stop, not even when I tried to drown them out with a fan. One neighbor told me they heard the crickets long before they saw them. They described the sound as something that crept into your bones, like a whisper of something ancient and unrelenting. Another said the crickets didn't just make noise, they made a presence. They filled the silence so completely that it felt like the air itself had turned to sound. There's something uncanny about the way they persist, how they seem to mock your attempts to escape their noise. They're everywhere, yet you can't see them. They're alive, but you can't touch them. These are not just insects. They are a kind of presence, a constant companion in the dark, a reminder that even in silence there is noise. The more I dug, the more I found that crickets aren't just noise. They are a signal, a warning, a marker of the world changing around us. In the quiet of the night, their song isn't random. It's a rhythm that mimics the heartbeat of the earth, a pulse that we've come to misunderstand. They're not just making noise. They're communicating across distances, warning of danger, marking territory, and even calling to mates in a language we've barely begun to translate. And yet, we've turned their song into an annoyance, a background hum we tune out, when it might be trying to tell us something about the world we've forgotten. It's not just about the sound. It's about what it means, what it reveals, and what it might be trying to tell us that we've stopped listening to. There's one thing about crickets that no one has ever truly explained. It's not their sound, not their presence, but something deeper. It's the way they seem to know when to stop. You hear them for hours, maybe days, and then suddenly they're gone. No warning, no reason. It's like they vanish into the earth, leaving only the memory of their song. No one has ever figured out why they stop. Is it a signal, a warning, a final act of defiance against the silence they've created? Maybe they don't stop at all. Maybe they're still there, just not making noise. Maybe they're waiting for something, for the right moment, for the right silence to sing again. And that's the one thing we'll never understand. Not about their song, not about their life, but about the moment they choose to stop, and why they never explain it. In some parts of the world, crickets are more than just insects. They're woven into folklore, whispered about in the dark, and believed to carry messages from the dead. Some say their song is a warning, a sign that something is stirring beneath the earth, or that the veil between worlds has thinned. Others believe that the rhythm of their chirping is a language, a code that only the most attuned can decipher, and that to ignore it is to invite misfortune. These stories live on in the quietest corners of the mind, passed down through generations like a cautionary tale, a reminder that even the smallest creatures can hold great meaning. And so, when the crickets sing at night, some still listen, not just for sound, but for meaning, for connection, for something beyond the noise of the world. Even now, scientists study the cricket's song with a quiet desperation. They seek to decode its rhythm, to understand its purpose, but the answer remains just out of reach. The sound is simple, yet it carries something ancient, something that has outlived every attempt to name it. It is not just noise, it is a question without an answer. Perhaps the answer lies not in understanding, but in accepting. The cricket does not need us to know its purpose. It simply is, and in its song, it reminds us that some mysteries are not meant to be solved. So we sit, we listen, we wonder. And in the stillness between the chirps, we are left with only the silence of the unknown and the quiet comfort of not knowing. There's something about the sound of crickets that lingers, even when they're gone. It's like a memory that refuses to fade, echoing in the silence between the notes. They don't just make noise, they make presence. A presence that feels both ancient and intimate, as if the earth itself is whispering through them. Maybe that's why they are annoying. Not because they are loud, but because they remind us how little control we have over the world around us. In the end, the crickets don't care about us. They just keep singing, and we keep listening, even when we wish we could stop. This place was once a beacon of hope, a place where the broken and the lost were given a second chance. But over time, its purpose shifted from healing to horror. Now, it stands as a forgotten monument to suffering, its silence broken only by the wind and the creak of its ancient timber frames. The air feels heavy, as though it holds the weight of every secret and every tragedy that once unfolded within these walls. Even the light seems to avoid this place, casting long, elongated shadows that stretch further than they should. And yet it lingers. This place, this haunting, like a memory that refuses to be forgotten. This place was built in the late 1800s, a time when the world was still searching for answers to madness. It was meant to be a place of healing, but it became something far darker. The first patients were brought in under the pretense of care, but soon the walls became a prison for the mind, not the body. Doctors here were more like jailers than healers. The director at the time, Dr. Elias Varn, was known for his strict methods and belief that suffering was necessary for recovery. He oversaw the use of restraints, isolation, and painful procedures. Many of the patients were poor, mentally ill, or accused of crimes they didn't commit. Some were locked away for years, their stories lost in the silence of these walls. The asylum was never meant to be a place of hope, but a place of control. And in that control, countless lives were broken, forgotten, and left to fade into the shadows. The first thing that made me uneasy was the silence. Not the kind of quiet that comes after a storm, but a heavy, unnatural hush that pressed against my ears like a held breath. Then came the shadows. Not the shifting of light, but the way the darkness clung to the walls, as if it had a will of its own, moving even when there was no light to cast it. Then I heard it, a whisper, not from any direction but from the walls themselves, a voice that was not mine, but not entirely foreign either. The air grew thick, like it was holding its breath, and I felt my own heartbeat echo in the stillness, as if the building had learned to listen. One night, the silence was broken by a sound that should never have existed, like a child's laugh echoing through the empty halls, carrying the weight of something forgotten. A nurse, working late, heard it. She turned, expecting to find a patient, but the room was empty. The laughter grew louder, then faded into an agonized scream. When she opened the door, there was no one. The room was untouched, but her uniform was soaked in something that looked like blood. She ran, but the laughter followed. It led her to the basement, where the air was thick with something that made her knees buckle and her breath catch. When she finally reached the bottom, she found a child's shoe, half buried in the dust, with a name tag that read Evelyn, a patient who had never been here. And from that night on, the asylum was never the same. The laughter still comes, but now it's always accompanied by the sound of something searching for its way home. I met a man who claimed to have seen a shadow move inside the walls during a storm. He said it was like the building was alive, breathing in the dark. He described a sound, low and wet, like something was crying in the basement. He couldn't tell if it was wind or something else entirely. She left the place the next morning, but she hasn't spoken to anyone since, not even her family. She just stares at the sky, waiting for the voices to stop. These are not just stories. They are echoes of something that lingers, something that refuses to be forgotten, even in silence. We are not the first to come here, and we may not be the last. The walls remember, the silence speaks. We began our investigation with a simple walk through the long, dusty corridors, our flashlights casting long shadows against the peeling wallpaper. The air was heavy, thick with the scent of decay and something else, something older, something that clung to the walls like memory. We found old records in a rusted metal cabinet. Names, dates, and notes that spoke of patients who never left, of voices that never stopped. One file mentioned a girl named Clara, who had been confined for years, and the last entry read, "She still sings in the night. No one knows where she went." As we left, the wind picked up, and the sound of a distant, childlike laughter echoed through the halls, fading as quickly as it came. There is one thing that has never been explained: the missing ward. No records, no blueprints, no photographs. Just silence where a whole wing should have been. Investigators have searched every corner, every shadow, but the ward simply doesn't exist. Not in the walls, not in the foundation, not in the memories of those who lived here. It's as if the building forgot it ever existed. And the people who lived here, they all say they remember it, but no one can agree on what it looked like. That missing ward has haunted the asylum longer than any of the ghosts we've found. It's the one thing that has never been explained, and maybe never will be. There are whispers of how the asylum fell. Some say the doctors became obsessed with their own patients, losing themselves in experiments that blurred the line between healing and harm. Others believe the building was never abandoned, but sealed away by those who feared what lay within, a place where the desperate and the mad were trapped for years, never to leave. Some say the walls still hum with the voices of the lost, their pleas echoing through the halls where no one is left to hear them. The local elders say the wind carries their names, not in words, but in the sound of rustling leaves or the creak of wood, as if the building itself is trying to speak. And some say the asylum is not just a place, but a memory, one that refuses to fade, one that haunts those who dare to look too closely. Even now, decades later, the name of the asylum is whispered in hushed tones. No one knows who the last patient was or what became of them. The records were burned, the walls sealed, and the past left to rot. Local historians and ghost hunters have come and gone, but nothing has ever been found. No bodies, no artifacts, no proof of what happened here. Just silence and shadows. The unanswered questions linger, like the echo of a voice that never quite fades. Was it a tragedy, a cover-up, or something far more sinister? Perhaps the real mystery is not what happened here, but why it continues to haunt us. Why we still feel the pull of the forgotten, the lost, and the unseen. And so the asylum waits, in the silence between the lines of history. A place where the past refuses to be buried, and the present is left to wonder. There are no ghosts in this place, only echoes of those who once lived here. The silence is not empty, it is filled with memory. We walk through the remnants of. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end.